Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Zero part number 34D. This is a piece of anodized dark bronze Astragal that is intended to be mortised into the edge of the door. Let's take a closer look at it. Get it out of the packaging here. This happens to be a 24-inch piece, and you can certainly order this material in lots of different lengths. So there's a screw that's captive in here. They've got this coated plastic material on there to obviously make that less dangerous, I suppose, with screws just sticking out of the back. It's captive inside of there. So what's the deal with this? This is a piece of aluminum extrusion, as you can see, that's intended to be mortised into the edge of the door. With this inserted pile, so it's going to look like that. It's going to obviously look like that. Okay. So this would generally be used in pairs, except that your opposite side is going to be a bull-nosed off version. You wouldn't have, although you could, the way that it's intended to be is that you wouldn't have pile in both doors. Although you could, that would be considered atypical and not correct to use this material, because it's meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the aluminum extrusion. And if you're going to try to run pile in both sides, you might be trying to compensate for an exceptionally large gap between the two doors. So it's the 38 that goes on the other side. This is the 34 with the pile. The 38 extrusion is probably the same extrusion. It is certainly the same extrusion, but it will have a different insert because you still need to have access to the captive screws after you mortise your edge. Pre-drill your holes accordingly, and obviously you're going to have to measure those off and pre-drill the holes is what you're going to have to do, and then place this inside and slowly bring in all of the fasteners as you do that, certainly doing it by hand. Down below there is an image showing the dimensional properties of the 34. It's really unclear what they're giving us to me. Is it the size of the mortise? Is it the extrusion itself? Let's take some dimensional properties. It's pretty obvious that 0.46 is going to be the overall depth of the aluminum, and my caliper is telling me 0.459. Okay, 0.459 overall depth. Thickness of the unit, my caliper is telling me 0.381, and that's giving them 0.38 there. So that's the item actually itself. They've got a projection of just shy on 5/16. Let's take a closer look at that. Okay, maybe a bit shy altogether, but nonetheless, there you go. So my tape measure is showing closer to a 1/4 inch, just heavy on a 1/4 inch. Black insert is going to be typical for a bronze, a dark bronze extrusion. Very typical and common concept, mortised in the edge of the doors. Get the weather stripping off the face of the doors. It's a cleaner look, obviously. The downside, of course, is when you're dealing with an interruption in the edge of the door for hardware. That obviously does happen. So you'll have to take that into account. It may or may not be appropriate for your application. You might be able to off-center it, so to speak, to suit. They're obviously showing a pair of radiused door edges. That's certainly going to be for a double-acting sort of scenario. I wouldn't really see it installed that way very often, except in an aluminum storefront. You could certainly see that, but you're not going to mortise this sort of material to that. Where you have an application where you want to mortise weather stripping to the edge of the door, this is certainly going to be a contender for that. What you could do is leave the reservation, so to speak. What I would personally like to do is determine, here's what I'd like to do. Buy some springs and get some springs sleeved over the end of this. And as you draw the unit in and out, you can play with that projection a little bit. It's really common to see pairs of wood doors installed, and they work great. Except that a year later, 2 years later, 15 years later, those doors are no longer plumb, level, true, and square. They're hanging into the opening, so they rub at the top generally, a lot of gap at the bottom. Having a spring concept would allow you to, once you've tried to bring the doors back up to plumb, you can tailor the projection of that pile. Now, Zero does not have an in-house solution for this, but I'm aware of the concept of adding a spring behind it, so you might be able to hack, hijack, improve maybe the design slightly to give you that tolerance. It'd be nice to have 1/8 of an inch out of it, is what I'm trying to say. If you so chose to be able to, bring that into play. There's a link below this video to a document called Product Brochure, and that will show you other variants, primarily of inserts. That soft pile is going to be really nice because it's going to present a very low closing force to the door closer, to closing it. Is very elegant, is very architecturally pleasing. It's black pile. It's ubiquitous. Okay, you can also insert that extruded neoprene lip in the 35 series. They've got that 36 with a different style bulb and a flap concept. And you can see the rest of the Astragals that are mortised to the edge on page 1. Scrolling through there will show you some surface mounted options. Now, I would say don't just stop at mortising it into the vertical styles. Consider the header as well. Consider the hinge side. Maybe you might want to have that concept run on all sides. You do also see this concept installed in hospitals, bathroom doors, in patient rooms, or the common area rooms, because what they have there in hospitals are rescue hardware. So you have a radiused edge door hung on rescue pivots, meaning that they will double act. You've got a margin between the door and the jamb. You have a rescue stop, meaning if, here's the scenario: hospital, patient bathroom, door swings in. Okay, door swings in. The ones that I've been in more recently, the doors have swung out, but you'll have bathrooms that swing in. Well, in the event when the patient inside is unable to get the door open for whatever reason, and you cannot swing the door into the room, you could trigger that rescue stop and pull the door out. But the point being is, in those applications, you will always see mortised pile or brush, short bristle, in the edge of the door, because it does serve to close the gap off below those applications as well, and gives you a way to seal that material. I don't really see, there are other options that are installed in those applications smaller than this, but the concept remains. If you're installing this, you're they say that meeting styles, both styles are active. Okay, sure. How many times do you actually see that application where you are weather stripping it? You might be weather stripping it just for sound or for light, I suppose. But a double acting, both door active radius styles, that's not going to be the tightest, sort of opening. So you can certainly install this in a traditional pair of doors as well. Okay, this is going to be available in the 34AA, which is going to be a clear anodized aluminum. The catalog shows the D finish, and that's the dark bronze, and it also tells us about a G finish, which would be a gold anodized material. The name Zero is quite synonymous with well-engineered and thought-out solutions when it comes to weather stripping. This client ordered a 2-foot piece and 2 80-inch pieces, so I can only conclude that they have a narrow door that they're going to weather strip on the header and then down the 2 sides. If I was going to be mortising this into the edge of the door, of an exterior door, I would sure get in there with my clear sealant before I installed this hardware, naturally. I wouldn't, try to do that after the fact. Also, when you're installing it, you're going to want to crimp the aluminum slightly to prevent that pile from just sliding in and out, because sliding in and out it will certainly do. So you get in there and you just take a center punch and just crimp it a little bit. I've had clients call and say, hey, that's dented. It is. It's actually peened or center punched, and it's to prevent the pile or the insert from otherwise sliding. Finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Zero products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the Zero? This is their part number 34D, Mortised door Astragal, or any other Zero product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.